Welcome to Food Friends, a podcast inspiring home cooks to try new dishes in the kitchen by sharing trusted recipes, tips, and friendship. Hi, I'm Sonia.
And I'm Carrie. We met in Los Angeles over 15 years ago as personal chefs and haven't stopped talking about food since. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for being our food friend.
If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with friends. We love hearing from you, so follow us on Instagram or drop us a line at foodfriendspodcast.com.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you and your food friends. Happy cooking and eating. Hi, Sonia.
Carrie?
Sonia, what was your best bite this week?
Carrie, you know that schnitzel is one of my favorite foods. And this week I did a little bit of a different version. I've talked to you about vegetarian schnitzels in the past that I use zucchini. I've also used sweet potato. I've even used cabbage.
Wait, sweet potato?
Yeah, at the restaurant, when I had my deli, our schnitzel sandwich in the winter was thin, long pieces of sweet potato, like cross sections, thin.
Oh my
We
gosh.
battered and fried and stacked on top of each other. And then when zucchini season came, we switched to zucchini or vice versa,
Wait,
you know?
what else was on okay, sorry. We have to digress.
Yes, we
What
did
else
get.
did you put on that sandwich?
So we did exactly the same things as our chicken schnitzel sandwich. So for the vegetarian one, the only difference was the actual schnitzel. Then it came with shredded iceberg lettuce, has to be iceberg, pickled red onions, had to be pickled red onions. And then we would make in-house a harissa mayo, like a spiced
Wow.
mayo with all those great flavors. It would come on this beautiful roll from a local bakery called Dos Hermanos, like a fluffy white great roll. It was one of my favorite things on the menu. I still miss, especially the vegetarian schnitzel. I love a vegetarian sandwich.
I really, really missed out. I never got to come to Beetroot when it was open. I got to come to the building when you had decided on that space. And for anyone who hasn't been in our orbit for very long, Sonia had this incredible deli in Portland called Beetroot Deli, and she opened it before the pandemic, and then it closed. And because of the pandemic, not only did I not get to come there, one of my biggest regrets in life is that I wasn't there when you were cleaning it out. I wanted to be there so
Oh,
bad. I just
Carrie.
thought, like, what a terrible, it was really your dream. It was such an expression of you, and so many people loved that deli, and it just was untenable because of what was happening in the world. It was a hard time for everyone, but I just thought no one should have to clean out their restaurant alone.
Did get some help here and there. My friend Aria was really helpful, and my friend Marissa was really helpful. But there were also a lot of times when I was alone in there. I think the thing people don't always realize is it can take longer to close a restaurant down than it can to even open it. It's a whole long story, which we don't have to go deep into, but you should not feel bad. It was really hard to travel then. I never expected anyone to come. And also, I would not wish it on anyone. It's not a fun thing to have to close a restaurant. And unfortunately, so many of them close. So that's just what it was. But fortunately, I still make a lot of the dishes. I share them with friends and I even share them with clients. And this is one of those things. So I have clients who 2 people in the family are meat eaters and 2 people in the family are vegetarian. And so I'm often thinking about meals that they can all enjoy together and not feel like anyone's left out. And schnitzel
Right.
is actually a great meal because I can make chicken schnitzel and then I can make vegetarian schnitzel. And in this case, I made tofu schnitzel. And once I was already making it for them, I was like, oh, I should make some for us because we love schnitzel. So that's where this all came from. And the thing about schnitzel that I don't think people realize is it freezes and reheats beautifully.
I feel like my mind is blown. You're saying your best bite of the week was a tofu schnitzel?
Yes, tofu
I don't even know.
schnitzel.
I don't even know how to schnitzel tofu. Because to me, tofu is still, again, you're very slowly converting me over to a tofu person. But before we go on, I have to just admit to you that I've just let 2 packages of tofu go bad in my fridge because I buy it and then I think, what am I going to do with it? And then I don't do anything with it. I could have schnitzeled my tofu.
You could also freeze your tofu, by the way. You don't need to throw it in the
I
trash. Before it goes bad, stick it in the freezer. It does change its texture, but it actually freezes really well. Tofu schnitzel, I actually decided to just wing it. And then later, because I want to share a recipe here, I found better techniques than what I did. And I would say there's as many ways to schnitzel tofu as there are to schnitzel chicken. There isn't just one way. The overall way is that you're cutting pieces of it so that it's like instead of like 4-inch thick, it's 2-inch thick.
Okay.
So you're cutting it that way into rectangles that are each about a 1/4 inch thick. I'm going to link a recipe that shows you pictures exactly how to do this. It's actually from our friend Sarah Bond of Live Eat Learn. She does tofu schnitzel too, it turns out.
I love
And
that.
you'll find a lot of people that tell you you have to press your tofu, you have to do this and that. I did not do any of that. I
Okay,
just
that's what
sliced my
keeps me from doing it because I'm like, "Ugh, I have to get out all the towels and the cast iron and
no,
press it down."
no.
And I think at one point you tried to convince me to buy a tofu press that I was like,
No,
"I'm
I did
not
not.
doing
I would
that."
never
Okay.
convince you to that was not me because I
Okay,
don't
that was
own a
someone
tofu
else was
press.
like, "Oh, you gotta have a tofu press." I was like, "I'm not buying that thing."
I have never once in my life owned a tofu press.
Okay,
If I want to
it
press my
wasn't
tofu,
you.
I just stick a cast iron on it. But to digress, I didn't do any of that. I took my tofu, I sliced it, I patted it dry. I didn't have it dry for hours. I just patted it dry. I seasoned it really well with salt and pepper and a few spices. I dipped it in some egg wash and then I dipped it in some seasoned panko breadcrumbs. I always include sesame seeds in my breadcrumb mixture for schnitzel. That's just the way I grew up enjoying it. So I do that for the tofu too. You can skip that. And then I just dipped that seasoned tofu in the egg, dipped it in the breadcrumb mixture, and threw it into the pan with oil that was hot enough. I don't think you need a triple dredge. I don't think you need to press it. I don't think you need to do
Did you
anything.
double dredge or you did
No,
it
I
once?
just dipped it in egg and then I dipped it in the breadcrumb mixture. After the fact, after reading a bunch of recipes, because I have made so much schnitzel, I was confident it was going to work. My client loved it. She said it was her best bite of the week. She had never had tofu schnitzel before. She was so happy to be able to enjoy schnitzel alongside her partner who eats the chicken schnitzel. So it was a win-win for them. It was a win for us. But actually, what Sarah Bond advises you to do is to make a kind of batter for your tofu before the breadcrumb phase. So you're combining non dairy milk, like an unsweetened almond milk, soy milk, whatever milk, with a little bit of soy sauce, nutritional yeast, cornstarch, and flour, and some spices. And you're making a dredge with that. She has you do the same thing I did, which is slice your tofu, pat it dry, and then dip it in this batter that's a little liquidy from that mixture. But also, this makes it vegan. So instead of eggs, you're using plant milk
Right.
as your liquid element. And then she has
And
you dip
nutritional
it
yeast, which I
and
think
nutritional
it's a
yeast.
great flavor to add to this.
Yeah, it's a great flavor. I don't always have that on hand, so I think you could use other things too. If you weren't keeping it vegan, Parmesan would be nice here too. So then you dip that slice of tofu in that batter and then you dip it in breadcrumbs and then you fry it. And then if you want to make this ahead, I mean, tofu does freeze a little differently than chickens. I think chicken is ideal if you're making schnitzel to freeze it, but you could make this, freeze it in a single layer. And then what I always do is just pop it into an oven. And in fact, a toaster oven is best or a convection oven, 375 degrees, 10 to 15 minutes. And when I fry it, if I'm trying to make it ahead, I fry it just a little bit under so that
That
it's
when
a
you
little
reheat
not,
it, you
it
don't
darkens.
yes.
Yeah.
Wow. So did you serve this for your client and also for you and Jonathan? Did you serve it as you did the sandwich that has like a harissa mayo and iceberg lettuce, or how did you serve it in
For
your
this,
head?
I no, I wish I had, but for this, I served it with a root vegetable mash in both cases. I actually shared about this on a recent Substack too, and I linked this recipe there. I'm making schnitzel again this weekend, by the way, because my nieces are coming to visit. I am definitely actually thinking about making more tofu schnitzel because I liked it so much. I liked the texture of it. It was so crispy on the outside, so tender on the inside, and so soft and pillowy. It's actually a really good vehicle for schnitzel.
I am so sold. Did
Okay.
you use firm tofu then? Is that what you
I did
used?
use firm. I think I used extra firm
Okay.
tofu, but not the sprouted tofu or anything crazy, just extra firm.
Okay, just extra firm tofu. Okay, this could be my gateway. I feel like you're pulling me along to try to become a good tofu cook because I really do love the idea of tofu and I have a couple of recipes that I can go to, but I would eat tofu all the time. It's just my family doesn't always love it and it's always kind of like holding me back. This
Well,
could
what
be
I
it.
would say is you could make chicken schnitzel and use the
Right.
same things for your tofu and try a couple slices of tofu the same time you're already making chicken schnitzel so that if you don't like it, you don't have to ruin a whole meal. I don't think it's for everyone. I'm not ever going to try to convince someone to like something if they don't like it. But for a vegetarian who wants that schnitzel experience, I really think tofu is a great option. But Carrie, what was your best bite of the week?
Well, Sonia, this week I made two different pies. One of the things I've been doing recently because of the season is I've been cleaning out my pantry. And I found these two cans of sweetened condensed milk, and they needed to be used. I had no idea what to use them for. I have no idea why I bought them in the first place, but I was like, okay, like I need to figure out what I'm going to do with them.
I just have to say, I have the same situation. I have several cans of sweet condensed milk in my pantry right now that I've been staring at and be like, will I ever use these? What will happen with these?
I have an amazing solution for you. Are you ready?
I'm so
So,
excited.
the recipe is called Atlantic Beach Pie. It comes from the New York Times. I have to say, one of the things I love about the New York Times app is that I can search by ingredient. So, that's exactly what I did. I searched for sweetened condensed milk, and this pie popped up. And it's from a restaurant in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. The chef from this restaurant, his name is Bill Smith. This restaurant closed in June of 2021, but he was inspired by the lemon pies that he ate at seafood restaurants in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina, when he was vacationing there as a child. To me, this is like the genius of a restaurant cook who is making a recipe that's easy to do. So you take saltine crackers, butter, and a little bit of sugar, and you mix them together and you blind bake them.
So you're making like a graham cracker crust, but with saltines instead of graham crackers. That's
But with
so interesting.
saltines and a little bit of sugar, and it really
Yeah.
says, it really specifies that you don't want to turn them into total dust. You want some texture. I have to say, that's one of the things I really loved about the crust. You let it blind bake for 10 or 15 minutes, and then while it's baking, you take 4 egg yolks, a can of sweetened condensed milk, a half a cup of fresh lemon or lime juice, or a mix of the two, which is what I use because I have a lime tree and a lemon tree. So I did a mix of the two of them. And I zested both the lemon and the lime before I juiced them. So I'd have a lot of zest. Once the saltine crust comes out, you just pour that. It's basically like a lazy curd because you don't even have to cook it. You pour that into the crust, you bake it for another 10 minutes, you let it cool completely. I baked this on a Sunday. And then on Monday is when I served it at a luncheon. This is something I just talked about on our Substack, this luncheon that I made for my son's school. And instead of just putting regular sweetened whipped cream, I added a little bit of labna to the sweetened whipped cream. So it would
Oh,
be
you took the
tangy.
labna idea. Have you never made labna whipped cream before?
I've never made labna whipped cream. I added the labna because of many conversations that you and I have had about adding labna to whipped cream, but also Ham El Whaley was just on our show and he was talking about how much he loves labna. And so I had just gone to the grocery store and bought all of these ingredients and I just picked up labna and then I thought, okay, I'm going to add some labna to my whipped cream. I added that to the top and then I garnished it with tons of this lemon zest, lime zest, and a little bit of flaky salt. It was by far my best bite of the week.
I live for labna whipped cream. I was so happy when Ham talked about that. That was something also that we always served on desserts in the restaurant. I really think I first learned about it from Adina Sussman. She had it on this chocolate tahini tart that she
Oh,
served with labna
wow.
whipped cream. That's the first time I tried it. And it really changed the way I've made whipped cream forever. And I think anytime you can use it, it enhances a pie or a tart or even a slice of cake.
Yeah, it was such a great combination of flavors. And I think it was also one of those things that felt perfect for the season, but you can really get all that stuff at the grocery store anyway. You know, you didn't have to go to the farmer's market and get it. I also served for that same luncheon, I served an Oreo pie that had basically a homemade chocolate pudding. And it was also a recipe from the New York Times that it was kind of a mix of you made the homemade chocolate pudding, but you just took Oreos and crushed them up in your food processor and added some butter and blind baked that too.
For the Oreo pie, You're doing an Oreo cookie crust. So instead of saltine crust, now we're in the chocolate world. You make chocolate pudding, which you could do from a mix or from homemade, and you just fill your baked crust with chocolate pudding. That's
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
gist
you
of the
just
pie.
yeah, that's the gist of the pie. I whipped the cream for both of these pies, and I just took the sweetened whipped cream out and did the Oreo one first. And then with the remaining whipped cream, I just kept adding labneh until it was like really tangy. And then I added that on top of the Atlantic beach pie. On a Monday, having two different pies was really, really fun.
Sure, everyone loved it. And I love that there's something for everyone, something a little chocolatey and something a little fruity, because I like both, but I know that some people lean one way or the other.
Yeah, it's nice to have a couple of options for sure,
Yeah,
especially when you're serving a group of people.
it sounds delicious. Well, until next time,
Until next time, bye.
bye.
Thanks for being our food friend.
If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with friends. We love hearing from you, so follow us on Instagram or drop us a line at foodfriendspodcast.com.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you and your food friends. Happy cooking and eating.